I'm Jen Harvie, and I'm Professor of Contemporary Theatre and Performance in the School of English and Drama at Queen Mary, University of London. And I will first outline what I perceive to be some of the main values of education and research in my disciplinary area of theatre and performance studies. And I will conclude by making three broader arguments about the perils facing arts and humanities education and research today. So to begin with theatre and performance studies, at least two of the values of work in my discipline are patently obvious. Performance's ability to make social interventions and its capacity to provide pleasure. Performance's work in applied theatre, political activism, and other forms of explicitly political theatre intervenes in people's lives to directly combat social deprivation and to advocate for social change. A recent example is Métis Arts' Third Ring Out, which was co-devised by Dr. Zoe Svensson, and which invited audiences to explore potential future effects of climate change on their local area and to rehearse preparations and responses. The production was chilling, but also fun. Indeed, almost all performance work offers some pleasure. This is one reason the subject is initially attractive to so many students. And that suggests that we lessen the pleasure as they do their degrees. But I mean, that's partly true, of course. However, the value of education, research, and practice in theatre and performance extends well beyond these two immediately obvious, though of course important, facets of social intervention and pleasure. As is the case in so many other arts and humanities subjects, work in theatre and performance valuably develops knowledge and abilities in three key areas, which overlap, but which I'll separate here for clarity. These are knowledge, understanding, and skills that are subject-specific, culturally transferable, and practically transferable. So to begin with the subject-specific. Subject-specific knowledge helps us understand theatre and performance. Some might ask why this is important, not least given that theatre might be seen as an esoteric practice and an esoteric subject. And I agree that theatre may be esoteric, but it is also popular, and it is both age-old and ongoing. And through it, I think we can understand our histories, our present, our beliefs, and our desires. I suspect those claims may sound vague and abstract. I admit that they're vast, but I also choose them precisely. Subject-specific knowledge also involves understanding not only the whole thing that is theatre, but the many precise ways it produces meaning. And some of the most obvious of these are intersecting aspects of things like text, space, time, and bodies. But there are many more aspects, of course, that make up theatre and that make up understanding what it is that is theatre. And to begin a very long list, these might include voice, sound, 2- and 3-dimensional design, cultural policies, cultural and other institutions, architecture, materials, training methods, practices of creation, representation, and reception, trends, journalism, economies, technologies, transport, labor, leisure, creativity, groups, individuals, neighborhoods, cities, nations, histories, feelings, ideologies, and on and on. And I've deliberately, I hope it's clear, deliberately made a long list of the many ways that theatre means and makes meaning, because I think this is a crucial part of what's useful about it is its interdisciplinarity. In other words, theatre and performance are not so much a single subject as they are an ecology, which requires and rewards inherently interdisciplinary thinking about the many, many ways that cultural practices intersect materially, historically, culturally, ideologically, and affectively. What's at stake in these routes of research and learning are, therefore, first, the things themselves, second, the cultural capabilities of making, understanding, interpreting, and influencing culture, and third, ways of understanding the operations of value, power, ideas, and ideologies. So that's a bit about what I think is valuable in the subject-specific area of theatre and performance studies. The second category of knowledge and understanding that research and study in theatre and performance cultivates is culturally transferable. And what I mean by this is that work on the specifics of theatre practice, for example on stage space or on theatrical labor, can be extrapolated into different contexts, for example, urban spaces and labor trends. Theatre and performance's inherent interdisciplinarity, indicated in the long list of topics I ran through earlier, gives it cross-disciplinary relevance, but also helps facilitate interdisciplinary research. Theatre is a productive context both in and from which to think about the intersections of practices and disciplines, for example, of labor and space, or technologies and bodies. The third category of knowledge and understanding that research and study in theater and performance cultivates is transferable skills. And these skills include those which we usually name on our pedagogic documentation. And I think we often are dismissive, academics can be dismissive about pedagogic documentation, but I think these are important skills. We help students develop skills in research, management, independence, and communication. We also help students and ourselves as researchers develop skills in other areas that are more rarely named. And those are social skills, skills in working with others, and in emotional literacy. In other words, skills in facility to care. Finally, this area of practice also helps develop skills in a third area, which is also rarely named, but is again extremely important, and that's in both creativity and criticality. So to summarize about what I think is useful about the subject area that I'm coming from, and which I therefore chose to speak about in particular, theater and performance practices and studies values are manifold. They produce social change, they provide pleasure, they facilitate inter- and cross-disciplinary understanding, as well as cultural understanding and practice in numerous ways, and they develop crucial life skills, especially in care, creativity, and criticality. And those are three key words that I want to take from practice, that is this research area. My emphasis on knowledge, understanding, and skills leads me to the first of the remaining three broader points I want to make before I finish. This point relates to instrumentalism, which is a word that's come up several times. During New Labour's tenure, instrumentalism got a bad press as the arts were seen to be burdened with delivering social services in ways that both demeaned good art and relieved government of what were properly its responsibilities. I don't have time to debate arts instrumentalization here, but what I do want to argue is that instrumentalism itself is not inherently bad, and that of course education should certainly have instrumental value. And that for education, as others have clearly articulated today, we need to retrieve an understanding of its instrumental value that focuses principally not on finance, as the Brown Review might have it, but on social understanding. Education should have the instrumental aim of developing critical, creative, and caring understanding of the human, the world, the self, and what one thinks will make a valuable life, not just an economically rewarding career. Second quick point I want to propose is that it might just be possible that government is withdrawing teaching funding from the arts and humanities in order at best to exclude researchers in this area, or at worst to punish us. And why would it do so if never explicitly? I won't be the first to suggest that it is doing so because research in our areas is often, though by no means always, left-oriented and critical of right, reactionary, and neoliberal ideologies, all of which are dear to our current government. And I take the point that this might not just be an argument against neoliberalism, and perhaps we should come back to that later. Thirdly and finally, I want to suggest that the government heralds as changes to education funding a fostering of market choice, but these are actually perhaps changes that are suppressing opposition or choice, therefore. The core problem that faces us is how to protect the criticality and political opposition of our research and teaching when these values are not only not shared by hegemonic powers, but increasingly perhaps suppressed by them. Thank you.